Now, we lost somebody on the couch. I think Gino has a little bit more insight on the Sham Stakes. Gino?
Thanks, Brittany. And yeah, remember previous winners of the Sham, the last, just decade or so, Colonel John, just a few years back, and used this race as a nice prep into the Santa Anita Derby. And then Golden Sense, just a couple years back, too, in 2013, Golden Sense won the Sham, and we've seen what Golden Sense has done since then, a two-time Breeders' Cup winner. We're going to break this race down a little bit, and to me, the important part of the race was early on. So we're going to use some of our new technology here on TVG. We can spot calculator right here out of the starting gate, and we can also use our nice little chiclet. Even though you can see the 7, I just want to play with the toys a little bit more, so there you go. Here's calculator. Now we're going to start the race and we're going to roll it. I'll clear it for you. We're going to start the race and we're going to roll it in actual speed. Now the key when we were going to stop the race is going right into the first turn. So right about here, I want to freeze the race if we can. Look at how wide calculator has to go into the first turn. You can see right out here, easy to notice calculator, not a difficult in the gray. So you'll notice he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paths wide going into the first turn. Not exactly the best trip that you want for a heavily favored horse. You don't want to lose that much ground ever. So now we're going to roll this race if we can at regular speed, and you'll continue to see calculator very wide into the first turn. Now stop it right here if we can. What I thought was really interesting, you can see he's widest of all, and he's going to try to tuck in a bit right here, and you'll see the 3 horse kind of takes the spot away from him that he wants. So I'll clear it, and you can see we can roll it now. And as calculator tries to tuck in, you can see if we stop it one more time, he wanted to get down to the rail, and he was not able to do so. So already going into the first turn, he's floated out wide, and the calculator's right here if we were interested. He's towards the back of the pack. He's right at the rear already, and this was what's kind of difficult. He was trying to get involved early on. He was trying to show a little more tactical speed. So if you're Peter Miller, you're probably already thinking, uh-oh, we tried to show a little more speed. We tried to get into the race early on. We're floated very wide into the first turn. Then we try to tuck in. Again, that spot is taken from us. So now you're already losing a lot of ground, and you've only run not even a quarter of a mile yet. So I'm going to clear it and we can run at full speed. And this is where I started to get really impressed with calculator, because the entire race, he's at least 2 deep. You can see he's never able to save any ground whatsoever. And he's really easy to pick up on the outside right here. So we'll put this over him and we'll see calculator. Very easy to make out. Always wide, at least 2, 3 deep. Now, what I like to see is the way he really was able to kick clear when he takes the lead at the top of the stretch. So he just travels very well. I think it was a really good job of getting calculator to relax early. Could have been a lot worse than this after that trouble going into the first turn. A lot of horses don't like that. You get floated out wide. And early on, when the beginning of the race is not what you expected, sometimes you can just pack it in and you see horses back up. That was not the case for a horse who's coming off a layoff. Remember, he missed a month of training from November to late December after having to miss the Breeders' Cup due to a sickness. And he takes the lead without even being asked, and we can freeze it right here. This race is absolutely over. It's not been asked at all, and the way that he's able to stride out, again, we see him on the top of the lane right now, and we can pick it back up full speed. This was a really impressive performance, and right away on Twitter and emails and messages came through and said, okay, how strong was this race? Who did he really beat? I don't care. When you're coming on back to the races, you're coming off a layoff. Peter Miller, his trainer, had not even fully cranked him yet. He was not expecting a race like this. To me, that was very impressive. That was a great, great prep, a great step forward. You get yourself a few points. And Britney and Joaquin, I was extremely impressed with that performance. I know people will start to talk pedigree now and how far can calculator go. He sure looked like he can go this far, and I don't think a little bit further will be an issue for him. Maybe the 1.25 miles down the road, but as far as getting an extra 16th or an extra 1/8 of a mile, I really thought this performance was good. What did you guys think?
Well, Joaquin, I want to throw that to you because I know in our meeting beforehand you were mentioning, I don't know if he can get that distance. What do you think about that?
Oh, that was a 1 mile race, and immediately Gino touched on a couple points here. He's by Intimation, who was a really good sprinter for Christophe Clement a few years ago, won on all 3 surfaces, on dirt, on turf, and synthetic. but Intimation, I believe, is by Put It Back out of a Deja mare. So there's a lot of sprint pedigree on the top side of the pedigree here for Calculator. He is out of an Alphabet Soup mare. Alphabet Soup did win a Breeders' Cup Classic in '96, going 1.25 miles, so there's some stamina underneath. So yeah, the negatives, and if people want to go ahead and poke holes in this performance, are going to be, okay, how far is he going to go in distance down the road, and what did he beat in here? My thing about the competition, if people want to play that card, is what did he beat in here? Well, he did do this off a 3-month layoff, over a 3-month layoff, as a matter of fact. Hasn't seen him since September 27th. And at least he didn't win this race by a half length, or even by a length. He hadn't run in over 3 months, and he won it pretty handily. So we'll see how he progresses going through the rest of the winter, but this was a nice performance today, and the speed figure came back well. Britney, a 97 preliminary buyer for Calculator in the Sham win.
It wasn't a very impressive win for the Peter Meller trainee, who had a huge day just alone in that race, running first, second, and fourth. So congratulations to him. Now, there were Derby points on the line. 10 points go to Calculator, and so that not necessarily shakes things up a little bit. But Gino, take us through, how do you think Calculator stacks up against this competition on the road to the Kentucky Derby?
Well, we see a lot of familiar names on there. Remember, he finished in front of Texas Red and right behind American Pharoah. And you see, I always have to mention it, I'm pretty close with the Zayats. Look at how the Zayat stables have 3 of the top 10 there. They have El Kabir, they have Mr. Z, and American Pharoah, a couple horses that are really, really nice newly turned 3-year-olds. Joaquin, I wanted to kind of get back to a point that you mentioned, though. The whole, who did he beat? To me, when a horse wins so impressively, once they win by 3 or 4 plus lengths, the whole who did he beat argument, and you were getting to this point, I could care less about that argument. It's only when you're all out to beat a horse that you don't really love, or you're hard pressed to beat horses and they don't come back and run well. For me, that kind of effort, and I think you're in the same ballpark, that kind of an effort off a layoff, off of a kind of a sickness, not expecting 100%. I really don't care who he beat. That was about as good of a race as you could expect.
And that's the way he should have done it. He did it impressively, and you touched on the adversity that he had to overcome with the wide trip, Gino. And then also, before the race, you mentioned going into the Breeders' Cup, he had a foot injury, was behind American Pharoah in the front runner, would have been a long shot in the Breeders' Cup should he went, but have not seen him in 3 months for a while because of the foot injury. Maybe was going to come back in the Los Alamitos Futurity, which was won by another talented horse for Bob Baffert in Dortmund. So not only was it a wide trip that he had to overcome in the Sham, Gino, it was an impressive maiden win since he was 0 for 4 coming into that race, but he had some injuries with the foot and also a sickness to overcome as well.
Well, the Sham Stakes is just one of many races on the road to the Kentucky Derby, and it is a long road to that first Saturday in May. But let's take a look at what's coming up next, because we do have some races. So El Kabir obviously took the first in the Jerome. We've got Calculator taking the Sham yesterday. The next is the Lecomte and Fairgrounds. What race, Gino, I'm going to throw this to you, are you most excited to see that's on this Derby prep schedule?
Well, let's be honest. In the last few years, I'm always interested in what's going on down at Gulfstream Park. Those races we can watch on TVG.com using our live track video. In the last few years, you get a couple really, really nice prospects down in Florida. So I know we focus a lot on the races from Aqueduct and Santa Anita. So the ones that aren't on our radar are kind of the ones that are interesting to me, like the Lecomte and also the Holy Bull. Those are ones that I'll definitely be kind of keeping my eyes open on who comes out of those big races.
All right. Joaquin, quickly, which one are you most excited for?
I'm with Gino.
Okay.
I'm with the Holy Bull. I think there's a lot of talented 3-year-olds right now in South Florida, so I'll be anxious to see what 3-year-olds start their sophomore campaign in Florida this year.
Okay, great. Well, this was a fun little segment, guys. All of our new technology and everything. Thank you, both of you. We've got to take a short break. We are just 10 minutes to post for the opener at Aqueduct that kicks off their Pick 5. We'll be back after this.